friends. Welcome to Sky House Herbs Podcast. I'm Ashley Ellenvoss, a clinical herbalist, and in this space, I share my knowledge and experience with plant medicine to help you on your own journey of healing and transformation. Join me in exploring the ancient wisdom of plant spirit medicine and how it can be used to heal the body, mind, and spirit. We'll talk to experts in the field and share stories from people who've been transformed by powerful plant allies. New episodes are released each Monday, so please subscribe. And now, let's explore this mystical world of plant medicine together. Friends, welcome in. Today we'll be talking about the differences and similarities between yarrow and plantain. I did a video last week on the differences, kind of comparing and contrasting to nervines, chamomile, and catnip, and you guys seemed to really like it. So I thought I would do another compare and contrast because I think it's a nice way to learn about herbs that are similar and how they are different. So let's start with these two plants, why I've chosen them, what they have in common. So yarrow is a plant that's often used for wounds, for skin issues, for bleeding, circulation. Yarrow is also, or plantain is also a plant that is used for skin issues, skin irritations, allergies on the skin, bites, stings, things like that. So they both have a long history of use as skin remedies. They both are, I think, most effectively used for skin injuries as a poultice. And they both share astringent properties. So both of these herbs are good if you're bleeding, if you have a sting or a bite, for drawing things out. But there are specific times when one will work better, or even in the case of something like a tick bite, where there's actually, you want to use one ahead of the other. So we'll talk about all of that today. Before we do, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do. It's very easy. Just click subscribe and click on notifications so that you can see my new videos, which come out every Monday. And of course, if you like the video, just click like. That really does help more people find me and more people to learn about plants, which is my whole vision and mission. So let's start by talking a little bit about plantain. So this plant is Plantago major. There is Plantago minor. Minor has a more narrow leaf, and this is the seed pod that grows. So they grow out of the ground with a basal rosette. So when you find plantain, it's very common. It grows all throughout North America, all throughout Europe, and both the narrow leafed and the wide leaf species. And they have this, all the leaves grow in a circle around one taproot, and then it has these little stalks that come up. Now, one of the ways that I teach my students about plant identification and how to identify this plant is you can see that the veins are parallel. And one way you can make sure that that's true is if you flip it over and you see at the leaf base, all of those veins come together at the base. And if you want to even make double sure, if you break it apart, you can pull it. And do you see how it almost looks like guitar strings. So let me put my hand behind it to see if that helps it focus. But you can see that let me even pull it wider. Do you see how you can see the strings? So those are the veins, right? So they're all parallel, and you can even pull it all the way out and see it there. So that's one of the key identifying features. But also, as always, use your plant identification guides. And my favorite app is Picture This, which is a great plant ID app. So plantain is a really good herb for bites and stings and things that have venom that you want to draw out. And I've used this. One of my favorite stories that I tell my students was one day I was on my way to go teach a yoga class, and I was wearing my big sunglasses, and a bumblebee came behind my glasses and stung me right under my eye. And I was like, oh no, I have to teach in 15 minutes. My class is 10 minutes away. I don't have time. I don't have time for this, right? That's like, oh, it always happens at the worst time. But I knew that in my front yard grew plantain. And I knew that plantain, when made into a spit poultice, would draw out the venom and prevent it from getting really swollen. So that's what I did. I took a little bit of plantain, and this is what you will do, is you'll just take a piece of the leaf, chew it up with your saliva, make it into a little spitball, and it looks like this. It's nothing fancy, just a chewed up leaf. And then I just stuck that on where the sting was. And then I drove all the way to my class, and it'll even stay there. So I kind of was driving, got to class, carried in all of my supplies. I sat down to teach my class, and I asked one of my students who was a friend, I said, how does my eye look? I just got stung by a bee like 10 minutes ago. And she looked at it and she goes, it doesn't look like anything. And I was like, it didn't, and it felt totally fine. So one of the things is that if you want to use it for a sting, you got to use it right away. I mean, you can wait a few minutes, but the faster you can find plantain and make this spit poultice, the faster it will keep it from really swelling up. Now, obviously, if you have like a bee allergy, you can use this in addition to an EpiPen or something like that. But this will help draw the venom out. I had another time when I was working at Roots Market. I don't know if any of you are listening from Maryland, but I worked for Roots Market when they first opened in 2001. And I remember it was my first year. I worked in the supplements department and the herbs department. And somebody came in and said, I got stung, a woman got stung by a bee. And I was like, I know what to do. So I ran outside and I grabbed a plantain leaf and I put it in my mouth and I chewed it up and I handed it to her. And she just looked at me with like the widest eyes and was like, what do you want me to do with that thing that was just in your mouth? And I realized, I was like, oh, and I grabbed another leaf and I said, you chew it. I promise it will work. So she chewed it. She felt much more comfortable with that, which, was a good lesson for me. Like, don't chew a stranger's poultice with your own spit, like have them do it. And then she stuck it there. And sure enough, within a few minutes, you couldn't even tell that anything had happened. And she was just amazed. So it works. It really does. It's a great remedy. The other time I use this is for tick bites. And when I was living in Maryland, we had lots of deer ticks, which carry Lyme disease, along with a lot of other cofactors. And so when my girls would get deer ticks, I would first remove the tick and then chew this up and apply it right away. And I would do maybe 2 or 3 applications like every 15 minutes. So because the thing is that, the tick has to be attached for about 24 hours for all of those, the Lyme virus and whatever, the other Borealis, all the other things that are in there to get into the system. If you can get those out, then you have a much higher chance of not contracting Lyme and the other cofactor diseases. So that's what I would do is I would just reapply it every 15 minutes. And then after that, I would apply something called ground ivy or yarrow if I couldn't find it, because it's very strong antiviral, antibacterial, it works against spirochetes, and has been shown, actually lab tests have shown that some of the compounds found in Glaucoma heteracea or ground ivy do help break up biofilms, which are part of the way that the Lyme disease anchors itself into the body. So that's pretty cool. We don't know if yarrow does that, but I know yarrow as a really strong antiviral, antibacterial, and wound healing agent, and something that also draws things out, is helpful as well. Okay, so again, the main difference between these two is that I use plantain for bites, stings, and things like spider bites, anything where there's venom. You can use it for splinters to help draw the splinter out. So anytime you're trying to suck something out, you want to use plantain. Now, while yarrow does have that ability to draw things out, its better use, I think, is for keeping infection from setting in and also to stop bleeding. So that is when I would use yarrow. Like, let's just say you have a really bad scrape, like your kid falls off the bike and their knee is just bleeding. Chew up the same way, take a leaf, chew it up, make a spit poultice, just like that, and then stick that on the wound. And if you have a wound that's like more of like a cut, you can pack it into the wound. So you can actually pack the wound with it, put a bandage over, let it sit for a little while, and then rinse it out. And it will stop the bleeding. If there's any bacteria that got in there, it will kill it off. And it's pretty amazing. And if you don't have access to bandages, you can just use it like a bandage and just apply it as a poultice with pressure, and it will stay. But if you have heavy bleeding, you'll have to hold it on with pressure to help the bleeding stop. I also use this as, it kind of looks almost like stitches, the leaves. So it can be really good if you think about a wound that is having a hard time closing. So, there are certain cases, yes, where you do need actual stitches, but if you have a gash and you want to help to tighten up those edges and stop the bleeding and stitch it up, you can use this plant. Another one that's really good for open wounds that are having a hard time closing is comfrey leaf used topically. With comfrey leaf, you want to make sure that it's not a very deep wound and that there's nothing that's infected inside, because comfrey will heal from the outside in. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to heal from the outside in if there could be any infection in there. So always make sure the wound is very clean. Yarrow is a great solution to use. If you have a yarrow tincture, you can use that to clean out a wound, or just water after applying the yarrow poultice. Yarrow is also really good moving blood. I mean, that's not really a first aid or a topical use, but it does have a really strong affinity for the blood and cleansing the blood and moving the blood and stopping blood stagnation. So, if there is an event where there might be some internal bleeding or hemorrhaging, you can also take it internally as a tea. So if, let's just say in a pinch, there's some sort of internal bleeding, hemorrhaging, and you're out in the wilderness and you have yarrow, or even if you're not in the wilderness and you have yarrow, you could make a quick tea or just have them chew on some leaves to help that stopping of blood, of bleeding and bleeding out. So there you have it. These two amazing plants, very easy to find. They grow throughout the world, specifically mostly in North America and throughout Europe. I hope you found this helpful and learning about the differences and the similarities of when they can be used. Let me know your thoughts if you've had any emergency situations where you've had to use either. I always love to hear your stories. I've used yarrow a lot for wounds in our family. And one time when I was hiking, I had a bad wound and I used it because I didn't have anything else. And I think it really saved my leg from getting infected. So great plants to know about, good allies. Thank you for listening, and I'll see y'all again soon.